So, what was your biggest struggle to overcome when you became a Christian? For me, mine was smoking and cussing. Oh my gosh, I cussed like a sailor. I probably cussed worse than most men on a construction site. I cussed really bad, and I couldn't have a sentence that I wasn't cussing. This was something I really struggled with. And, cussing offends a lot of Christians, which you should. But I had a hard time with it, and I fought it. I fought it. Well, cussing ain't even a sin. Well, it is. It is. But I didn't want to believe it was. I did not want to believe that it was a sin, so I tried any way and every way to convince people that it wasn't a sin. I was okay. But it was a sin, and God finally convicted me on it, and I had to stop cussing. And I still struggle. Every now and then I'll get around certain people and I want to cuss. And I don't know what it is. I don't. But I still am struggling with that, and I have to ask God to help me stop cursing. Stop cussing. I was like a sailor. And the other thing that I had a really hard time with was smoking. Oh, I had a struggle with that. And it's funny because I had quit for 14 years. 12 years, I take that back. I had quit for 12 years. Didn't have one cigarette, didn't want a cigarette, nothing. And then I had an experience that shook me to the core. It was a very traumatic experience. And I took up smoking again. I put it down. I put it back down. Went about 6 months. Got under a little bit of stress. Took it back up. Oh, probably 2 weeks to probably more like a month. I did it, and I put him back down again. Then I picked him up again, and I put him down again. And I did this probably, 6, 7 times. And all the way up to about 2 weeks ago. I'm not even going to lie to you. I went the longest time. I went for almost an entire year. Didn't want a cigarette one. And then the evil one come in with a temptation. And I gave in. I gave in and I smoked, wishing I hadn't, but I did. And I was having the biggest struggle with that. So I put them back down again, and I go a couple of weeks and I get that temptation so strong again. But this last time, I was under such conviction from the Lord, because I had been asking God to help me. Oh, He did. He did. Because I got under such conviction from God. Like, I felt so horrible. I felt like the worst sinner ever for picking up those cigarettes. I put them down. And it's been that 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't want one. Don't have a desire. Not at all. Hallelujah. So, I know what it's like to struggle. I do. And I had other things that I did. I had so many things that I did because, I was a partier. I was no saint ever. I back in the day, I smoked. I smoked stuff that was besides cigarettes. I did street pharmaceuticals, and I drank, and I cussed, and I did a lot of things I was not supposed to be doing. But I don't do those things anymore. Hallelujah. But I had to have help from God. So my question today is, what was the hardest struggle that you had to overcome when you gave your life to God? I'm curious. I'm curious to know what it is. Everybody has certain struggles that were harder than others. So share your struggles with me. And when I might just do a video on the thing that people struggle with the most. We all have struggles. We all do. And, you know, when I stopped drinking, I didn't stop overnight, but I did stop. When I stopped doing the street pharmaceuticals, I didn't stop overnight, but I did. And when I stopped smoking, the other stuff, that one took me a long time too. I ain't gonna lie. I live in Colorado. I live in Colorado, and everybody does it. You'll be driving down the street by a dispensary, and the smell is so strong that it's crazy how strong it is. Well, you know, my real mom, she smoked all the time. So, you know, even before it was legal, and I mean, she passed away before it ever became legal. But for me, you know, that was the smell of home. And some people, it's the smell of cookies. Well, not for me. It was the smell of that and the green stuff. And so for me, when I drive by the dispensaries, I'm just like, reminds me of my mama. I know that's kind of a crazy story, but it's true. So I'm curious. I'm just curious. What was the hardest thing that you had to overcome? Now, everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a testimony. I want to hear yours. I want to know who my followers are. I want to know what you struggled with the worst. What was the hardest thing for you to overcome? How did you overcome it? Give me your testimony. Share it, please. Hallelujah. I know when God puts you under conviction, I mean, there's so much guilt involved, you don't ever want to touch it again. You don't ever want to touch it again. And I got to tell you, when I was smoking the green stuff, I had a really hard time with that, because that was my crutch. Because after all the trauma that I went through, I quit doing depression medication. I had a lot of anxiety. I have PTSD. For anybody who needs to know, I have PTSD. And for me, I was smoking all the time to handle my PTSD. And honest truth is that I was using it for more than just when I was anxious. I was using it more than medical use. And that's, God convicted me with that, because I used to tell everybody, well, it's because I use it for medical use. But the truth of the matter is, I used it for more than just medical use. I used it all the time. There was never a time that you had met me that I was not under the influence of it. I was always under the influence of it. People never knew that I was under the influence because they never seen me without it. But I was under the influence of it. And then God told me, He says, really? This is medical use. Then why aren't you just taking it once in a while when you need it and not doing it all the time? But before He did tell me that, He had me quit smoking it for recreational use. You know, when you get around people who, social settings, that's really what I meant. I had to quit smoking in social settings. And then He convicted me on the medical use. And then I gave it up. I gave it completely up, 100%. Hallelujah. And I feel better. I really do. But, you know, that's my story. That's my testimony. God takes, a lot of times He'll have gradually get you off of stuff. He'll gradually convict you so that you get off of it. For me, that's what He did with the green stuff. For the cigarettes, I had to go cold turkey. No way I could cut myself down, because I'd smoke the whole thing. And for cussing, I'm still working on that one. So, what's yours? What was your thing that God convicted you on that was the hardest?